It's another fine day at Camp Dynasty. I am Counselor Austin, joined by Counselor Collin, and we have reached the month of November, the final month of the college football regular season. It's the time to put up or shut up for the 2026 campers, I would say.
Yeah, time flies when you're having fun. I can tell you that. We were just talking about how like we blew by October and it was like Halloween all of a sudden, and like we forgot to do the Halloween theme. Like we usually do that last episode last week, week 9, as like kind of a Halloween vibe. Forgot about that. It just kind of seems like it came out of nowhere, and so now we're recording August 5th, and we're week 10 has completed in the NCAA season. We're flying through the NFL season. The trade deadline just happened, so that usually marks like just past the midpoint. So things are happening at a breakneck pace. It feels like where time is just going by. So
Time is unrelenting, refuses to slow down as much as I wanted to.
yeah,
But we, before we get too existential, maybe it's not a bad thing because it is exciting to be nearing the end of this ride for the 2026 class in terms of the regular season. We're getting very close now to film season,
yeah.
to diving into the whole thing and getting rankings 2.0 out of the way and setting ourselves up for the rest of draft season. There's more mock drafts coming out, NFL mock drafts. There was like the mid-season NFL mocks started to come out this week a little bit. So it is that time of the year that we're approaching the end of college football and the NFL season is trucking along. So we're moving right along with it.
Fans are on Tankathon. We're
Yep.
starting to see they added, I think, more and more rounds to their mock drafts and everything. So you're starting to really get into, if you're a bad team, you can kind of start to see the light a little bit, the light at the end of the tunnel, where you're like, okay, yeah. If I'm like a Saints fan, I'm like, hey, we're getting close. Or like a Jets fan, you just got these first round picks. You can start to kind of see where they might fall on the draft order, and hopefully have a little bit of optimism going forward.
Well, we're going to talk about some of the top players from week 10 college football, some of the players that may offer some hope to NFL fan bases and just a few months from now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like 5 months away from the NFL draft. So
It's kind of scary.
It's kind of crazy, but week 10, it was a fun one. There's a lot of names here that we got some guys coming back. We got some guys that are stacking badges up, and we're going to get some IDPs into the program today as well. I won the coin toss finally this week. So I selected with the first badge of the week, Eli Stowers, who, despite what the mock drafts that you may be reading right now are telling you, we still think is the top tight end in the class, or at least damn near the top tight end in the class. I mean, Sadiq is Sadiq. He's the traitsy, what can you be player. Stowers was the guy that kind of put it on film last year for us. And we've talked about him already. We've given him a badge already this year. But this was his big standout performance of the season. It came in a big game. Vanderbilt ranked in the top 10 for this matchup with Texas, who's also a top 20 team. And Stowers is getting the big game boss badge from me because it feels like every time Vanderbilt is in one of these huge games, he is the player that shows up. He had his big breakout moment in that huge win last year against Alabama. You see him here in this big premier matchup. Unfortunately for Vanderbilt, they don't get it done. It was a thrilling comeback effort that came down to an onside kick that probably should have been recovered by Vanderbilt, but Stowers played a huge role in how they got back into the game and ultimately only lost by 3 points. 7 catches, 10 targets for him, 146 yards this week. and 2 touchdowns for Stowers. An absolutely massive performance from him. Shout out, the first touchdown was a great route versus zone coverage. It was a seam in the red zone where he kind of decelerated right over the top of the middle zone and like waited for it. And Pavia found him in that right spot. And then he makes the yak play inside the 5 to get into the end zone. So again, it's like one of those things that really stood out to us was the savviness and the football IQ, especially being a former quarterback, showing up against those zone looks, knowing where to be, knowing when to slow down, and then having the athleticism on top of it to make these yak plays consistently. So, while he may not be in the limelight in terms of your favorite NFL draft analysts putting him as the tight end 1 in the class, he's still looking pretty great to us.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this was kind of him putting it all together in this game where he hasn't had that breakout performance. We talked about him, I think, against Utah State when he had 68 yards and a touchdown, but hasn't had one of these like statement games, and maybe that's why he's not being talked about, or maybe it's because his size or whatever. But this game had just a huge effect on the defense as a whole, just occupying the middle of the field. Love a tight end that can like run a seam route that's not just running it to clear out. That's actually like get this guy paired up with Dak Prescott so he can like chuck him some seam balls, and maybe it's a little dangerous, but Stowers he finds the hole in between, behind that linebacker and in front of that safety, which is like that key spot against either cover 3 where these guys are dropping deep and you can find that spot and drop it in. But he plays that really well. He had a really nice game after the catch in this game. He had 63 yards after the catch. A lot of those coming from that seam ball, but still in this one, like had 2 missed tackles forced, which is pretty close to his season high outside of week 1. So fun performance from a fun player, still looking like my tight end 1. I mean, Kenyon Sadiq had an opportunity absolutely to like seize that, because Stowers isn't having like statistically a super impressive season. If Sadiq would have like stacked up these kind of performances, and he just hasn't. And Stowers comes out and does this against Texas in a huge game that they probably should have won because of him.
Yeah, the one area with Stowers, I think you were onto it there, where maybe he's not, kind of acclaimed in the way that we kind of thought he would be entering the season, is the fact that he's only playing in line 28% of the time.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, it's on track to be a career high, but I mean, at the end of the day, like, he's a player that's playing in the slot 65% of the time this season. So he is technically a little bit undersized. He's not really lining up in line. That's, versus a player like Sadiq that has the size, that's going to line up in line, that's going to be a consistent blocker. I think that's where some of that comes from. But in terms of receiving ability, in terms of, having that sort of football IQ, having yak ability, which, that's obviously been a huge thing for us here. And you see why with players like Tucker Kraft in the NFL. I mean, those are the fantasy stars, the guys that can. Well,
did you see how Romeo Dobbs was talking about Tucker Kraft?
He's in a better place.
He's in a better place. I don't know if he is.
I don't think he is. I think he's in a bad place.
Yeah.
But all right. So that is one of the top tight ends in the class. How about one of the top wide receivers?
Yeah, one of the top wide receivers is Carnell Tate, who is getting the acrobat badge, because if you see this guy play ball, you kind of understand what's going on here. He's after midseason, he's been awesome, posting 100-yard games in 3 of the last 4 against Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Penn State. All these Big Ten teams. He had an okay game against Illinois, sandwiched in between those. But as like this complementary piece to Jeremiah Smith in this offense, he is unbelievable. Like the things that he does, the touchdown catch that he had, he beat a guy clean over the top. and has a couple yards of separation, gets underthrown and like makes this twisting grab with some contact, shakes the guy off, and then finds a way into the end zone. And the other 4 catches are just like nice ho hum, running this big dig route, catching it over the middle, getting a couple more yards. And so this is just an NFL receiver that plays 90% of the time out wide on the season and dominates just straight up vertically at the catch point. Like I hammered this home in midseason, but the catch point ability is so sick that like probably the best in the class, I would say. And I don't think that's even like a hot take at this point, where he is just game in and game out. I'm looking for his 2 more contested catch targets, 2 more contested catches, makes him 12 for 13 on the season. Like, it's just silly the stuff that he can do with the ball in the air against a DB that's all over him. So the concentration, the strength of his hand, athleticism is all top tier. And I feel like maybe he'll get underappreciated a little bit. We had a comment on our Spotify about I think Tate's flying under the radar a little bit like Egbuka was, because he's not, the number 1 most productive receiver on his offense. And true, that's probably true, but I've started to see him move up the board a little bit on mock drafts, and you're starting to see him get a little more love. So I think maybe that'll get corrected in this draft class. I think people can tell maybe Jeremiah Smith is just unbelievably good, and Carnell Tate's just also awesome. So we'll see how that turns out. But Carnell Tate, another really solid week with some fun highlights.
Pretty easy to look like a, second fiddle when the first fiddle is the best wide receiver prospect since Jamar Chase
the first
or whatever.
Fiddle's the guy that was playing against the devil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yes. Yes. But if there is a question about Carnell Tate flying under the radar, I think that will quickly be changed once we get out of this season. Once people start diving into film, because not everybody is, watching through the season. A lot of people get into their film, like analysts, I'm talking people with, big Twitter followings and stuff. A lot of these big football, analyst personality types, they are not diving into film until after the season. They're not really following the college game that closely. They're going to all dive in, and they are all going to watch this player and be like, holy shit, you're telling me the guy behind Jeremiah Smith is this good? And, a lot of them will probably already know Tate because of his recruiting background and the fact that he's kind of been a name in this room for a few years now. But I think there's going to be a lot of people that are shocked at how good he looks this year, because to be quite honest, I'm one of those people. Coming into this season, I expected him to take a step forward. I expected him to look good this year. Obviously, he is taking an even bigger leap than I would have imagined. He is entering a conversation for me at this point to be a no doubt sort of top 20 NFL draft talent at this position. I mean, with his ability as a route runner, which every time we talk about him, we've given him 3-4 badges this year already. Every time I go in and watch these games, I'm just blown away by his ability as a route runner at this size, and how easily he separates at all levels of the field. And then that's not even, factoring in yet his ability at the catch point, which you said, it's not a hot take to say he is the top in the class. I agree with you. And that is saying something when a player like Denzel Boston is in the same draft class.
Right.
These
and
are
even
two,
Jordan Tyson, who's awesome at the catch point.
Yeah. So you have a lot of players with a lot of talent in that area. And what Tate's doing this year is, it's unbelievable. It's not sustainable. First of all, 12 for 13 is that is insane.
Well, that's what I think every game. I'm like, well, one of these games he's going to go 0 for 3 and it'll start working its way back to the mean, but another 2 for 2 game. I don't know.
Just 92% at contested catches, over halfway through the season. So it's absolutely bonkers. I mean, he's 71% for his career. He's never been below 50 in any of his seasons. So it's a real part of his game. It's just that this year he's been almost perfect when he has to make a play on the ball.
Yep. 4 missed tackles forced on the season. If you're wondering what's up with Carnell Tate that he can't do, not the best after the catch at like making guys miss, but I don't think it matters.
Yeah, we've talked about this before, but like he is going to be that pure separator, ball skill type of a receiver. Probably not going to offer you a ton of yak, but that's fine.
Yep.
All right. Well, a wide receiver that might offer you a little bit of yak is Antonio Williams, and he makes a return to Camp Dynasty this week. He is getting the reintroduction badge from me because this has been an interesting season for this entire Clemson team, quite frankly, but Williams also dealing with some injuries earlier this season. We talked about him on the midseason rankings update. I still had him in my top 12 because I was like, I don't really have a reason to take him out yet. Like, it's been a weird year for the team, but he hasn't really been on the field to show that he's regressed. I mean, obviously, smaller player with an injury history. He's got injuries again. Maybe that's something to factor in here, but I'm going to wait and see what happens. And what we're seeing with Williams is that he's kind of the same guy, I think. And this was the game where he really put it all on display against Duke this week. 10 catches on 12 targets, 149 yards and a touchdown. He also had 3 carries for 22 yards and another touchdown. So it was another heartbreaking loss for Clemson, a shootout loss to Duke this week. Program is completely spiraling out of control, but at least Antonio Williams kind of back and looking like himself a little bit.
Yeah, it was nice to see. He had that one like big post that he caught that he ended up getting hawked down a little bit, but it was still, one of those big plays that you're hoping to see from Antonio Williams. Because I mean, the things you fall in love with are, the kind of, he's a good deep threat, he's good after the catch, really good athlete, and that's all those things kind of packaged together. You hope into this nice, fun player, and you got it all on display here against Duke, who, seems like a decent team. Like, I don't know if that, like, the defense is as good as the offense is, and I think you see it with this shootout that, maybe Duke has a real, like, ranked team offense, but not a ranked team defense, but end up squeezing this one out against Clemson. But Antonio Williams has this kind of game, and it's like, hey, finally, it almost feels like you can breathe a little bit. He had a nice game against Boston College, but it's like you expect more out of a player like this, and you get that big performance where it's like, hey, I finally get to see him, using his legs a little bit and like reaching out for like when he had the run and he's like had a guy hanging on him and he dives in reaching over the goal line. You get to see a little bit of why he's, I loved him so much in the preseason, and I'm sure, we'll come back around when I watch tape and I'll be like, he wasn't the problem. I feel like I probably will get there at some point. But in this game, he was trying to be part of the solution, but didn't end up working out for him.
One thing I want to note with this one too, he was blocking in this game. He was blocking his ass off in this game. I love to see that from Antonio Williams, a player that has been, kind of vocal about some effort concerns in the past. And he's out there in this game in a bad season. The team is not doing well. He's out there at 5'11", 180 or whatever, like blocking and legitimately throwing good blocks and creating opportunities for players behind him. So
yeah, you love to see it.
All right. Well, he's not Ashton Genty, but he's certainly accumulated quite a few badges this season.
Well, we're talking about Jeremiyah Love here, running back, Notre Dame. If you're not familiar, get familiar because this is going to be your number one pick in your dynasty draft. 17 carries, 136 yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground, had another 4 catches for 30 yards through the air. He's getting the closer badge. He had a 94-yard touchdown run to basically close the door on this game against Boston College. Just an awesome performance. Like that run was just completely untouched. Had a little bit of patience behind the line of scrimmage, and then just like 0 to 60 in 2 seconds. Like he was flying on this play. And it's just, it reminds you of the play last year in the playoff where he goes, what was it, 99 yards? Was it? I don't remember. 90 plus yards
or 98.
Yeah, in that game where it's like, oh, is this going to be the 2026 RB1? And kind of reminds you again, after having a huge performance where he gets a badge in week 8 against USC with 228 yards, does it again where he has 136 yards, 2 touchdowns. Talked a little bit again on midseason about Jeremiyah Love where we were like, hey, I don't know if Jeremiyah Love is in that Bijan range, if he's in like, that top tier dynasty asset range. But if he goes nuts like every game down the season, maybe he ends up there. And I mean, so far so good since then with 350 combined yards in the last 2 games is not so bad.
Yeah, he's answering the call that we kind of put out there for sure. And the last 2 weeks as well, 5 catches, 37 yards, 4 catches, 30 yards. He's up to 23 for 227 on the season. It's an area that he's been, more involved this year. He's already almost matched his receiving totals from last season in just the 7 games or 8, whatever games that he's played. So, I mean, it's good to see that as well, because it's definitely a player that, given his ability and space and his athleticism, like feels like he should be one of these pass catching threats as well, where we can just get a guy like this out and let him do something with it. And they're getting a little bit more of that involved into this offense this year as well. So that's good to see.
Yeah, getting those touch numbers up where we talked about how he was kind of more of an efficiency runner last year, had 162 attempts total on the season last year. Will probably eclipse that within the next 2 weeks. We'll definitely, as long as, he's getting normal workload, will eclipse that in the next 2 weeks. Might even get there next week. So you're talking like he's getting the workload, he's getting the carries that you want, and he's still trucking along, putting together incredible performances on great efficiency, 6.3 a carry on the season. So kind of answering all of the questions that you might have had about him.
Still Mr. 101, that's for sure. Let's talk about an IDP. Somebody told me that they're people too, and I believe that person, because this linebacker class is really starting to take shape, both in terms of high-end talent and depth. And I think I'm giving a badge this week to Kam Robinson, linebacker from Virginia. This is one of the best players in college football this season. I don't think that's a big hot take, because Virginia right now ranked number 12. 7 straight wins for this team. And they won this week in part to Kam Robinson's effort on defense. He had 5 tackles, a sack, along with 3 pressures. And then he had the game-sealing pick 6 under a minute left in this game. He's getting the dagger badge from me, just putting this one away. Made a great play. Was playing kind of the middle zone, and the quarterback just didn't see him, or maybe didn't expect him to make the play that he did. I'm not sure, but he made the play, and he turned it into a touchdown. So this is a linebacker with a little bit of, size, a little bit of athleticism, and the production is certainly there this season. He has 2 pick 6s on the season. Only player in college football with 50 or more tackles and 2 pick 6s this season. So, I mean, he's having a hell of a season. He's one of these players where I'm not sure that he's going to be, in this top tier of linebackers that we've been talking about. I don't think that's the case, but I think this is one of these, later round guys that he goes to a spot where there's maybe an opportunity available for him, and he's certainly going to be worth paying attention to.
Yeah. These are ESPN stats. If you're looking, you're like, that's not what he said.
Yeah, that's
so this is 6 total tackles, half sack, and a pick 6.
I really should just use ESPN because like PFF just has a complete mind of its own.
Yeah.
And I mean,
with defensive stats, it's like, whatever. But either way, great game from Kam Robinson, getting into the backfield with those 3 pressures, like you said, and then, get flying around, getting after people. I mean, great athlete, a little undersized, and that's probably why, you might end up seeing him go late, but also like lurking a little bit this season in total with those 2 picks and 1 pick 6. So I like to see, these classes build themselves out a little bit, especially in like linebackers that you might know before the draft, because I feel like we get into these seasons and it's like you're kind of just hoping that these guys become something that get drafted either, early, and you're like, well, they took him in the 3rd round. Obviously, he's going to be, a starter on that offense, and then he ends up getting replaced by Teddy Buchanan. And it's like, all right. So I thought that Trent Simpson was going to be a good player. So hopefully this group of guys where we're starting to build kind of a deeper list of names, they feel pro ready and can get in within their first couple years in the league. And Kam Robinson seems like a guy that, maybe he'll go a little later, but could vie for a spot because of, that athleticism and maybe a little bit of pass coverage repertoire.
6'2", 234. Yeah. That's where Robinson is. I just refuse to call a sub or any linebacker that's over 230 anymore.
We're good.
He's got the size. Yeah. He's in. So
it's a big player.
Yeah, he's huge. So, all right. Well, we are not done talking about this Clemson Duke shootout.
I had to do it. We talked about this player 2 weeks ago in Week 8 for his game against Georgia Tech. If you remember that, it was Cooper Barkate. And we're talking about him again because he had a huge game against Clemson in a big spot. We kind of talked about how I don't know what he's going to look like against like a real team. And I don't know like if this is a real player. Has a huge game against Clemson. A lot of it coming off a play where he was uncovered on a play action kind of shot where the DB, I don't know if it was like cornerback blitz or something, or if he just read his cue completely wrong.
It looked like the defense was completely like mixed up.
Yeah.
Because the cornerback like late blitzed, but there was nobody picking up that spot. Like that was bad.
So he's getting the uncovered badge for his touchdown there. But outside of that, he still had some really nice plays. He's just like a strong player at the catch point. He has really good timing with their quarterback, whose name is escaping me right now. But he is like he had one catch where he ran it was like a inside curl where he came to the middle of the field, sat down, and the cornerback was draped all over him. But Mensa is the quarterback, and he caught it inside shoulder, late hands, kind of got around a little late, but saw him and just plucked it out of the air. And those kind of plays are like, I don't know, maybe Cooper Barkate could be a thing, because obviously the big play where he gets most of his stat line from isn't translatable. You're not like, oh yeah, that's going to happen every play in the NFL. But those plays where you're getting these gritty 8-yard first downs on 3rd and 7 are like, okay, maybe we're seeing something with Cooper Barkate. So I'm watching respectfully.
Number 7 receiver in college football right now, 776 yards on the season. It's impressive. The jump from Harvard to Duke and putting up big games against Clemson. Say what you will about the state of the program. I mean, it's impressive stuff. So Did you know that Rutgers? I was just looking at the top receivers in college football. Rutgers has a 6'6", 225 true sophomore that is currently number 3 in the sport in receiving yards. He had 241 yards last week.
We'll have to tune in next year for that one, I
Yeah.
think.
Hello, 2027 class once again.
Yeah, here's a basketball player that's also a freak. All right, cool.
All right. Back to the IDP side of things. We are not done with just Kam Robinson bringing another linebacker to the program. Jacob Rodriguez from Texas Tech. David Bailey, the big standout defensive player for Texas Tech this year, the transfer edge rusher who's projecting to go very high in the NFL draft at this point. Rodriguez is quickly making a name for himself, though, as the linebacker on this unit. Similar in terms of size to a player like Kam Robinson, coming in at 6'1", 235. He's just a dog. He's one of these linebackers that's just like a dog out there. And I'm giving him the Mike Tyson badge this week for his performance against Kansas State, in which he had 2 forced fumbles, both on peanut punches. But he is like real. It's like a haymaker. He's like winding up and just beating the ball out of the arms of the ball carrier. So he's got 7 forced fumbles on the season. That leads college football. He is becoming known for his ability to peanut punch and to force turnovers from the linebacker position. I mean, he's another one of these guys that I don't know that he gets into the conversation with Styles and Hill, but it goes to show how exciting this linebacker class is when we have multiple players here that are not even in the top tier of guys with the big time athletes and the big time, programs and all that. We have a lot of guys here that are emerging that are being very productive in college football and are projecting as legitimate NFL talent at the position as well. So Rodriguez, another player that's having an awesome season and deserves a shout out here.
Yeah, another guy that's like just flying all over the field and doing like forcing turnovers is really hard and something that a lot of NFL teams are going to value. And if you can seek out the football like this and punch it out and force this many fumbles, like you said, 7 on the season, 2 in this game, extremely valuable. And so maybe I don't know if you get a chance based on that, but he's awesome outside of that too, because he's, again, one of these, is he lighter? He's 6'1", 235. So one of these players that's like athletic, that can fly around, that is average sized for an NFL linebacker, and can make these plays, all over the field where he's, again, like hunting people down and making these. I don't remember I think it was the 49ers that they had to tell him to tone it down on like punching at the ball because they were just like punching people, and they're like, all right, you guys got to make sure you're going for the ball.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe he ends up a Niner.
Oh my God. Rodriguez, I know it's very controversial to bring up the PFF grades and that this was just in the media again. I'm going to do it anyway.
I didn't see the controversy.
Well, the one with when they all came out again and then JJ Watt was like, this is garbage. And then Chris Collinsworth had to do the media tour. And
well, PFF, they do good work. You guys just don't understand the rating scale.
I mean, to be quite honest, I don't get the rating scale. I never will. I don't love the grades, but I mean, there's something to be said when a player has a 93.9 overall defensive grade, a 96.9 run defense grade, and a 92.3 coverage grade as a linebacker.
Pretty good.
Like, not looking at those numbers and being like, this is the best linebacker in the class, obviously, because look at all these big numbers. Like, but it goes to show how complete of a season he's having as a senior at Texas Tech and really elevating himself in terms of the NFL draft conversation right now.
Hell yeah.
All right, one more badge to go. I'm glad this player snuck in with the last pick.
Yeah, so we're going with Duce Robinson here, wide receiver at Florida State. He had another one of those games where it's just like big play after big play. He's getting the chunk badge because of just like the type of player he is, but he had 30 yards per reception in this game, 29.6 to be exact, 5 catches, $148. Caught this one the one long play that one of the long plays that he had, I guess I should say, caught up the sideline. It was like a hole shot against cover 2. He blows by the corner by design, but Castellanos sees that the safety is facing inward, so he takes a shot at Robinson, goes up and plucks it out of the air, and usually you're like expecting, that's it. The safety's coming down on you, you get pushed out of bounds, and he like beats the safety's angle and gets like 25 more yards. And I'm like, that doesn't happen, especially a guy that's 6'6", 225 essentially. So just like a really fun player that I don't really know exactly I don't know what Duce Robinson is at the next level. I don't know if he's like a gadgety guy or what, but it just seems like he can play outside and he's like fluid enough to be an awesome receiver if he has the opportunity to do it. And I don't know if he needs a ton of development. Like I remember we talked about Johnny Wilson a lot, and we talked about how he needs to like be a more technical player to succeed at the NFL level, and you can't just rely on your like height and athleticism to do everything. It feels like Duce Robinson has a little more like refinement to his game, but I just don't know if it's like enough to be a real like super productive NFL receiver. So I just don't know where I fall with Duce Robinson, but I have a ton of fun watching him.
He's not a name that you're hearing very much.
Yeah.
Like the national media has not really given much attention to this season that Duce Robinson is having, which is weird to me because this is a player, a 5-star recruit, a very high profile recruit that went to USC and eventually ends up here at FSU this season and is having the breakout season in year 2 or year 3 right now. And it feels like there should be more buzz about what's happening with Robinson, because every time I watch him, I am really impressed at what he's doing at this size in terms of as a route runner, in terms of as an athlete. The catch point stuff has been there all year. It really does feel like this maybe is an under the radar breakout season that maybe folks, after the season, maybe all of a sudden it's like, hey, Duce Robinson actually had like a really good year. Like maybe we should see what's going on here. I don't know that he's going to be in this draft class. I'm not saying that it's like a guarantee that he's an early declare because of the season that he's having. But I think at the very least, he has elevated himself into being a legitimately intriguing NFL draft talent. One that, might not be a day 3 sort of a draft talent. Like you talk about Johnny Wilson. I think the big difference between these two players, there's probably a few differences, but I think the main one is just the level of athleticism that Robinson is giving you at this size with his athletic background and all of that stuff. Is he the most proficient route runner on the planet? No, but like we've seen some really high level stuff from him this year. Like the stutter go, it's like you're running that at 6'6". Like,
well, yeah, because that's what he scored his touchdown on in this game, where he kind of gave him the little shake and he was by him.
He's really impressed me this year. Every time we've given him like 3 badges. Every time this comes up, I watch these games and I'm just like, damn, like he's legit.
Yeah, I touched on the first like hole shot that he caught. The touchdown that he had was that, kind of almost like signature stutter go where he gives him just like, it's almost like imperceptible how like he gives him just a little inside fake and just blows by him. I kind of feel bad for this guy to look him up. Ladarius Webb Jr. He's 5'9", $168.
Ladarius Webb Jr. Why do I feel like I know
Is
the
it,
Ladarius Webb?
maybe we do, but and that's maybe he's a nepo baby and that's why he's out on the field. But 5'9", 168 pounds. Looked all of that small against Duce Robinson. And then he, had out of the slot, had like a slot fade. It was like a sluggo where he caught it against the back of the DB. So every single time that he got a look in this game, it felt like he was, coming up with 30 yards, which would add up mathematically.
Ladarius Webb was in fact a cornerback in the NFL that retired in 2018.
Wow.
So it's not even that long ago. And his kid's in this.
He's a redshirt sophomore.
Getting mossed or getting cooked by Duce Robinson right now.
Deuced.
I'm not even going to say what I was just about to say.
Also, I didn't realize that he didn't score on the stutter go. It was marked down at the 1. His touchdown was a back shoulder fade, which,
There, it makes
what are you
sense.
Gonna do? Guys, 6'6", 223.
Yeah.
Hard to cover. Was not covered by Ladarius Webb's son on that play.
All right. Well, that is 8 badges for week 10. Fun slate. I'll say it, man. This class it's starting to excite me a little bit. It's not going to be a running back class, but I think one of the things that I really like about it is that it's an IDP class. It feels like this is the kind of class where if you got some thirds, if you got some fourths, you can get some legitimate high-end defensive talent, I think, in those spots this year.
Yeah,
so
I think it's going to be a fun IDP draft too. Hey, if you're not doing IDP yet,
do it now. This is your moment. All right. Well, as fun as this week was, it's not all good news around here. And we have to make the call home. And this is the second call home in just the last few weeks for this player. It's LaNorris Sellers. Kind of got on my soapbox a little bit about Sellers. We called him, and I think both of us, even when we did the call, it was kind of this situation around him is brutal. It's bad. But the unfortunate reality is that no matter if it's the situation, no matter if it's the player, no matter if it's both, which is probably the most likely answer, Sellers has been very disappointing down the stretch of this season. And I think when you have a quarterback class that has gotten very exciting, that has turned on its head a little bit, but has not lost any of its steam. We just have some new names that have emerged. You have guys shooting to the top of NFL draft boards. Sellers is being left behind. And when we talked about him a couple weeks ago, we raised the question of, will he go back to school? Will he transfer? But, this week against Ole Miss, another dud, 15 of 29, 176, a touchdown, 2 picks. Where are you at this point with LaNorris Sellers?
I'm probably just in the camp that he's going to be in the 2027 class. I just feel like the writing's on the wall where you're just not having the season that builds on 2024 like you'd like to. And I just expect Sellers transfer, ends up, I think I said Miami. Maybe he ends up there, wherever he ends up, and has a nice 2026 season and ends up in that 2027 class. Because he's being left behind, like you said, by these guys that have moved their way up the draft board, as have a lot of the quarterbacks that we kind of expected to be in the top of this draft class. Nussmeier, Aller, Arch Manning, all the same goes to them, where it's like we haven't seen what we wanted to see out of these players. We haven't seen, the good that we were hoping to see. And so I would like to see development. I would like to see him in a better environment because, like you said, we said, I think last week, he took another 6 sacks in this game. Hasn't thrown more than 18 passes in a game on the season. Has only had over 250 yards passing one time all year against Missouri a few weeks ago. So it's just a lot of things that are, pushed up against him that is like, man, we're just not having a good time overall in the, Sellers fan club. So we'll hopefully move this down the road another year. I don't think if we see him in the 2026 class, I think that would be a mistake is where I'm at.
Most sacked quarterback in college football this season, that is LaNorris Sellers, 31 sacks on the year, but also third highest time to throw in college football this year at 3.3 seconds. So it's a terrible offensive line. It's a terrible situation.
He's not helping himself.
He's not helping himself.
Yeah.
That's the reality.
Yeah.
So I agree. I think we'll go into next year. We'll hope he's in a better spot, better situation, and hope he can develop at that point in time. But yeah, this quarterback class is just not what we thought it was going to be, but it's turning out to be pretty good.
I think that's kind of the fun of it.
It is fun, and Arch Manning's back. So
yeah, right. Yeah, well, somehow we talked about the Vandy game and didn't touch on the fact that Arch Manning is going to be the Saints quarterback next year.
Right. Exactly.
Because, they said that I remember there was a question in the preseason. It's like, is Arch Manning, like, would he go out if it was the Saints? And everybody's like, no, why would he do that? And well we're getting closer to that being a reality.
Looked pretty damn good this week. I don't know.
I think there was one point where he had more yards after the catch than he had total passing yards. So I don't know if that's a good thing, but
I mean, I watching for Stowers this week. I found myself stopping when Texas had the ball just to watch Arch because
didn't look bad.
There were some legitimate throws from Arch in this game. I'll tell you that.
Well.
So. All right. Well, that is the bad news of week 10, but we do not end on bad news at Camp Dynasty. Refuse to do it. So let's gather around the campfire and reminisce about the campers of old on All Grown Up.
Already one touchdown. Robinson's going to have 2 today. He's looking. He's throwing from the end zone. Fingers and ground. And it's a crouch. First and goal. Jetty. So much power. He's going to bang it in.
So I want to stick on the theme of IDP this week because we talked about a couple linebackers in the class. Get out here, around the fire, feeling warm, feeling toasty, feeling like IDPs deserve a little bit of love. And I want to start with the IDP from the 2025 class, which was Abdul Carter. And I want to talk about the season that he's having. And I think it's, if you are a person that drafted Abdul Carter, and I'm looking
I'd say the IDP of this class was Travis Hunter. But
right.
That's where I thought you were going, but we'll do Abdul Carter.
Sorry, let me correct myself. The pure IDP,
yes.
The pure IDP of last year's class. Of course, Travis Hunter was a complete anomaly.
Yeah.
But when we're talking about straight up defense, Abdul Carter was the guy. And I think if you are a person that drafted Abdul Carter and you've had him, I'm looking at one right now, and you have him in your lineup, and you're seeing 1 and 0.75 or whatever, and you're like, what the hell's going on? Like, I spent a first round pick on this guy. This is ridiculous. I just want to point out the fact that right now in the NFL, Abdul Carter has the 19th most pressures in the NFL right now. That is more than players like Byron Young, like
Brian
his
Burns.
teammate Brian Burns, who is currently putting together a potential fantasy defensive player of the year season, depending on your scoring settings, of course. But so
Rashawn Gary, who's like second in the league in sacks, he's ahead of him. TJ Watt, these are all players that he's, comfortably. Max Crosby, he's ahead of. So, he's in good company.
So it's one of those situations where you have to be patient a little bit with these guys. I mean, I think there's probably some folks out there who are disappointed that they took him with a first round pick and are not seeing production, but that production it's going to come.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree. I have been, disappointed like week in and week out. You look and you're like, man, another week of, I think this week he had like 0.85 in our league. And I'm like, oh, God, like, can I keep starting this player? And then, like, the PFF report comes out on Tuesday or Wednesday or whatever, and it's like, Abdul Carter had 6 pressures. And it's like, okay, I feel pretty good about that. So it's like the sacks will come. You would assume. You look at the guys who, like, lead the league in pressures, and they're all – mostly the top sack leaders in the league, Aiden Hutchinson and Will Anderson and Micah Parsons, Jared Verse. So they're all really good players. So Abdul Carter being like in this range where he's got 1 less pressure than Myles Garrett on the season, I think you can feel pretty good about where he's sitting, and you just hope that the stats will come. Now my question is, do you just keep starting him? As somebody who needs advice, do you just keep starting Abdul Carter and, like, you just assume these, like, sacks are eventually going to show up on the stat sheet, or do you, like, put him on the bench and, like, wait until he has the game, even though he's, doing this on a week-to-week basis? I don't know the answer because I am questioning it myself going into this next week.
It's tough. When you are in the weeds of IDP so much that you are looking at the pressure numbers, looking at the pass rush win rate numbers, and like that's when you can start to convince yourself of these things. Like, I should just keep him in, right? I think no.
He's playing the Bears.
I mean, I don't know. Like, that's the thing. Like, maybe it's a matchup game the rest of the way, like you try to pick your spots with him, but I think it's one of those things that there's a few players out there that they're pressure machines, but they do not, for whatever reason, consistently convert those pressures into sacks. And I think until you see that conversion number switch, I think you just kind of have to be like, all right, like, guy's getting in the backfield, but maybe he's not a startable asset quite yet.
Yeah, that's fair. I think it's right now going to be a matchup game. You got to, like, and I know that this is, like, a lot to do for someone to be like, yeah, I'm just playing fantasy. But if you're looking, you're like time to throw for the opposing quarterback, or like pressure to sack rate, I think is like, if you look at the opposing quarterback's pressure to sack rate and you're like, well, I have a high pressure player. If he's going to get 6 pressures and Caleb Williams allows, and this is different this year, but like last year he was like 22%. It's like, well, then he'll probably get home at least once, right? So maybe a little bit too much math to do before, a football game. Then you're playing fake fantasy football.
I mean,
that's what you got to do, man.
That's what you got to do. I mean, you got to find an advantage any way that you can, especially on the IDP side, because
Right.
it's a fickle part of the game.
Travis Hunter, also an IDP asset. I saw this. I was looking. I'm like, Travis Hunter injured. They're MRIing his ACL, and I was like, oh my god. Well, what happened? Like, I don't even remember this injury happening. And then we get the news that it's not. They're like, yeah, not long term. ACL's intact. We're going to be back. We're putting him on IR, but should be back, by the end of the season. Because they traded for Jacoby Myers too, the Jaguars did. And so I was like, oh, this has got to be bad, if they're going to trade an asset to basically replace him. But feeling good. How are we feeling about Travis Hunter as a whole? I saw the take that, like, this is why this player can't play both ways. And I'm like, all right, man. Like, he didn't even, didn't he get hurt at practice? Is that what happened?
Yes.
Yeah, like, it's not like it happened in a game when he was trying to make a tackle. Like, I don't know. So I think people are dumb and crazy, but that's just me.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a complete, like, bad luck, unfortunate situation. Like, it's just, there's nothing more to read into it than that. It's just, but it sucks. I mean, because it seemed like it was finally happening where he was doing the full, experience for anybody who had him in the DB slot, getting that 20 whatever point game the other week. But yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate that this happened, obviously.
Yeah.
Sticking on the IDP side, I'm not done. They're people too, man. And we don't have a KTC to, like, measure where the community is on IDPs, but I want to shout out a couple of guys that are starting to pick it up a little bit. And, I don't think these are guys that are on a waiver wire in an IDP league. I mean, it depends how deep your IDPs are. Like, if you're doing a full IDP lineup like we are, then, these guys are probably not on the wire. But Donovan Ezeraku, who was a player that we liked quite a bit in the process last year, he is starting to pick it up over the last few weeks. He's starting to get more involved. The Cowboys were doing a heavy rotation early in the year, and he is starting to emerge out of that rotation and earn consistent snaps. He is up to 22 pressures, 2 sacks, had 1 sack against the Cardinals on Monday night. So a player that is potentially, kind of doing a little bit of a rookie breakout sort of a situation. And then on the linebacker front, there's a few guys that were kind of like sleeper-y guys that we shouted out on our last IDP episode of the season, right before we transition to 2026. But these are guys that are starting to kind of make a weekly impact. Guys like Teddy Buchanan on the Ravens, Barrett Carter, a Camp Dynasty legend, if there is one from an IDP perspective, spanning multiple seasons, and eventually being, kind of left out of the picture when it was like, all right, you've let us down too many times. And then you go to the Bengals and all of a sudden you're the starting linebacker and racking up tackles on a weekly basis.
And they traded away Logan Wilson.
And they traded away Logan Wilson. I was going to say, missing a few tackles as well, but that's very on brand for Barrett Carter.
Well,
but
him
regardless.
and Demetrius Knight, who
Yes.
are both on that defense, and he's another rookie. Both, I think, top 3 in missed tackles on the season, but still getting production. That's not what we care about. We care about how many fantasy points are you getting me, not how many fantasy points are you not getting me. Like, maybe you care a little bit, but if as long as they're getting you're like 12 points, I think you feel pretty good. Ezeraku, I feel like just kind of scratching the surface maybe with this new look Cowboys defense, where he's going to be basically the premier pass rusher on the edge, where you have Kenny Clark and Quinnen Williams now on the interior. Quinnen Williams is going to be drawing a lot of attention. So that leaves Ezeraku probably hanging out with a lot of one-on-ones, because you're going to be, living and dying by how well you can block up the interior against those two, forces of nature on the inside. And then on the linebacker front, Yeah, Buchanan playing that like Patrick Queen kind of position that I kind of mentioned earlier through a shot at Trenton Simpson, but playing that LB2 spot as Roquan, people are saying he's washed. I don't know if that's true. I think that Ravens defense is really bad, especially that Ravens D line hasn't really lived up to what you would have hoped coming into the year with the assets that they've put into it, both in the draft and a little bit of free agency. So definitely a lot of rookies and young players starting to kind of blossom a little bit. You usually wait to see maybe through a full year. These guys start to produce in their second year. Mentioned Cedric Gray last week. Has another great game where you had to wait a full season, but now he's like full-time green dot on that Titans defense. Usually that's what you see, but these guys kind of taking over in their rookie year, maybe struggling a little bit, having their, making their mistakes, but that's what a rookie year is for. If they're going to put you on the field, you got to expect them to make some mistakes, right?
I mean, that's it. And to be quite honest with you, one thing that I've learned this year, maybe last year and this year, about linebackers is that everybody thinks that their linebackers are bad. Like if you go on Twitter or whatever, look for hey, how's this guy doing? Everybody's going to be like, this player is terrible. And nobody except for the 49ers fans with Fred Warner are like, we have a good linebacker. So, and speaking of PFF, you go to linebacker grades, there's no good ones. They're all mid. So
I think this is the hardest period to be a linebacker in the NFL with the offensive scheme is basically every offense is built to just confuse linebackers. Yeah. And we're doing motion, we're doing play action, the trickery is all just to get the linebackers out of position and throw it over the middle, above them or in between them. And so I don't know if we're grading on a curve there because that's everybody's goal is to just put their linebackers in a blender, and Fred Warner's the only one that doesn't get put in a blender. But I think that's also a part of it where these guys are watching their linebackers bite on the 25th jet sweep fake, and it's what are you going to do? What if they do hand it to them?
Well, and for that reason, the lesson that I've taken away is that do not let an occasional poor play or bad game influence your opinion on a linebacker, especially with young players. Because I'm thinking of a guy like Peyton Wilson, who if you we were big Peyton Wilson fans here. If you were invested in what was happening with the Steelers linebacker position this year, you saw that Peyton Wilson was benched early in the season. I saw tweets from guys like Ben Solak and other notable names being what these Steeler linebackers are terrible. Peyton Wilson, what are we doing? And I'm sitting here what do you mean? He's putting up some fantasy points that, whatever. And then he gets benched for Cole Holcomb, and I'm just well, I guess it's over. And then Peyton Wilson comes out and has this huge game this last week. It's one of these situations where you really have to drown out the noise with linebackers. And quite frankly, you have to not care if they're bad. You just have to hope that they're not bad enough
to lose
that
their
they
job.
get benched.
Yeah.
But otherwise, just let them score the points that they're going to get.
The other thing is you think about Ernest Jones, who was on the Rams, and I think he was on he got traded to the Titans.
Yep.
And then got traded to the Seahawks, and you're he's not good. If he's getting just bounced around like this, and then he's just been awesome for the Seahawks I think that's another thing is sometimes you're in the wrong system, sometimes you're in the wrong scheme, and it's maybe you just look bad doing what they're asking you to do at that time. And so I think there's so many things that go into linebacker play that people don't really fully get, and they're just look at them and they're oh, you bid on play action, you're an idiot. And it's well, there's more to it than that. So yep. I think that maybe take it easy a little bit on yes, I know Bobby Wagner is washed, but he still gets 12 tackles a game. That's all I care about. Well, when he retires, I can drop him. How about that?
Yeah. All right, so that's IDP. I mean, they are people too, but I don't know if they're this much of people. So who do we have on the offense of this week?
I just want to give a shout out. I don't know if we've talked about him in All Grown Up. Jackson Dart, quarterback for the New York Giants, is having a great fantasy season. Had another solid game and a loss. I feel like that's how you can describe his entire season. Maybe a little bit of a garbage time player for you in fantasy, but throw into just a cast of characters with Theo Johnson and Wan'Dale Robinson and Lil Jordan Humphrey, and it's really without Neighbors, you might see Jordan Tyson on this team next year, and that would be kind of fun. But I don't know if they do you feel like they figured out quarterback with Jackson Dart? How confident do you feel? I know we were a little bit skeptical on what Dart was going to look like in the NFL coming in, and we kind of had a lower grade on him, and ended up going as the second quarterback in this draft, and is now had his best game of the season against Denver. Has had a few good weeks and has really good rushing upside. So I don't know, I feel pretty good. I don't know. What's up? What's up with Jackson Dart?
I'm thinking I need to pull some receipts because I'm pretty sure I was not excited about Jackson Dart at all, and him going to New York, it didn't particularly do anything for me. You can't deny that he's putting up fantasy points. I need to go back and actually watch some Giants film and watch him play. I just haven't seen him play, sat down and watched him play quarterback enough to know I know he's scrambling a lot. I know he's definitely had some big moments. I'd like to see what he looks like from a down-to-down basis before I come out here and say oh yeah, this is the savior that the Giants have been waiting for. But I mean, it's hard to argue with the impact that he's had, even just culturally on the team. It feels like he's been a great piece for them there. Has had some clips in the media, great relationship with Scattaboo and that whole situation. It seemed like there was a culture forming around this young nucleus that they had, which means something. I mean, it's not, it shouldn't go, under the radar when these guys are starting to build something together, and with Dart being the leader there. So
yeah, he has right now, depending if you count Jacoby Brissett, but the fourth or fifth highest time to throw out of any quarterback. That's behind Caleb Williams, Jalen Hurts, and Lamar Jackson, and then Jacoby Brissett has about the same as him. And then Justin Fields, Drake May, Jaden Daniels. So that's just kind of Josh Allen. That's the company that I think you want him to be in, where he's a scrambling quarterback that buys time behind the line of scrimmage. So I feel like a guy that is doing a lot on the ground plus doing enough through the air. I feel like this is such a bad environment to be a quarterback, just kind of in general, that I feel like I gotta kind of applaud the guy to say hey, having a hell of a season so far, given they threw him in for Russell Wilson, and I was oh God, throwing Jackson Dart to the Wolves, this is going to be horrible. In that first game, it was he played against Tui Pelotu, had 6 sacks on him alone. And it was man, this is kind of what it's going to be all year, wasn't it? But kind of buttoned things up a little bit. And I think it's looked pretty good.
I want to talk about Kyle Monangai.
Yes.
Because I will not turn this into a victory lap. Because I feel like I go on Twitter now, and the only thing I see is a stream of people quote tweeting clips from NFL games being see, I told you. Like anytime any player does anything, it's like somebody has to be there to tell you, I knew about this. I was right. You guys should have listened to me. It's like, okay, that's fine. Like we all watch the sport. We're all football nerds. We're all going to have our hits and our misses. It doesn't matter. I'm not the only guy. You weren't the only guy saying Kyle Monangai, sleeper, get him on your team, Ben Johnson, whatever. All I'm saying here is that Kyle Monangai, who was kind of our like big running back sleeper pick, this week has his moment. And so now it's up to us as people who believed in his talent and who believed in his situation to look at this performance and decide what do we want to do about that. So that's what I'm asking you, because we were both Monangai fans, and
We were Manun guys.
We were Manun guys. We may have even thrown around the like he could be the Montgomery to Swift's Gibbs in like the most Dollar General version of that backfield possible.
In which things aren't $1 anymore.
No.
I need to get that off my chest. That we're like, you can't call yourself Dollar General anymore, man. Call yourself like $1.25 General. That's disappointing.
Oh, yeah. Like that's just false marketing at
But
that point.
yeah, Cincinnati, kind of one of those games where you're like, yeah, they're going to run all over them, and Monangai's their only running back. So, like, every fantasy player is like, get Monangai off your waivers because DeAndre Swift is hurt. And it's like, yeah, didn't really expect him to have 176 yards rushing. I could say that, and then another 22 through the air. But incredible game, and he looked awesome doing it. Really strong runner. I feel like you can say, like, I was a believer. Like, I feel really good about Kyle Monangai going in. I felt like they didn't have a strong running back room in the first place, so he should have opportunity early. Those are all true things that I think we said about this player. And I had 13 carries against New Orleans and a touchdown. He had 81 yards. So when he gets like some real opportunity, it feels like he can turn it into some real production. And then my question, like, do you just buy high on Monangai? Like, do you just say, hey, that didn't mean to do that, but that buy high on Monangai? Let's start that.
That was nice.
Hashtag that. Do you just buy high and say, like, yeah, he just had his best game of the season. He's probably the most expensive he's been so far. But do you just do it anyway because this is still, like, a pretty low end of his performance spectrum if they don't bring DeAndre Swift back next year and he's, like, a pretty featured piece of this offense next year, or if, like, Swift continues to have, like, nagging injuries. Like, do you still feel like, hey, I like this player enough to trade for him maybe?
I kind of feel like it's the opposite thing. There's no fun rhyme here, but I feel like it's
sell high on Monangai.
No, it does rhyme.
Yeah. The high
okay.
is the
right. For some reason
it's not the double like Lin-Manuel Miranda.
I was thinking of like the opposite of buy high would be sell low.
True.
But then I was like, well, that doesn't make any sense. So this is what my brain does
okay.
now.
That's
but
okay.
Yes, so we still have the fun rhyme, but it's just the less fun version of the rhyme, which is sell high on Monangai, because I'm looking at this as, this was a situation that I think was very plausible, that he was going to get work this year, that he was going to make an impact. I think this is a situation where there was no DeAndre Swift. They were playing the worst defense in football. He has this massive game. And I'm looking at what that did for his KTC value. And, okay, like, we try to use KTC because that's what we have. I do often wonder how, like, reflective of the Dynasty community it actually is, because these guys just shoot up whenever they have one game. And so it's like, are people really out there seeing this one game and being like, he's he's the best. Like, I'm looking at these KTCs that included
I
Monangai
am
today.
too.
It's shocking. I mean, there are people that are taking Monangai over Jaden Higgins, Monangai over David Montgomery himself,
Actual David Montgomery,
actual Dave Montgomery, Josh Downs, Mason Taylor,
Brock Purdy,
mean,
Khalil Shakir,
like legitimate guys that are, these aren't like superstars, but like in the case of like a Higgins or
Imagine
Mason
a month
Taylor,
ago telling people that you'd be considering Kyle Monangai with Woody Marks and Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt.
Right, exactly.
How quickly we move.
Right. So that's why it's like, if this is real, if the greater bulk of dynasty leagues out there have folks that saw this one performance and viewed it as like an indication of, well, DeAndre Swift's career is over. This is Monangai's team. And they're willing to pay a second for Monangai at this point, I'd sell him for a second. I would. I feel like,
about if I want to trade a second for Monangai. I don't know.
I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, could it swing? And could he be the guy? And could you like lose value and all that? Like, sure, that's always a possibility. Nobody knows anything for sure, really, at the end of the day. But did I just do the Kyle Shanahan thing?
Yeah.
Like, we all might be dead tomorrow.
Yeah,
I'll trade my second. I don't care.
Yeah, that's kind of what it's like. Like, yeah, get rid of Monangai. Nobody knows what is going to happen. We just have been talking for the last hour and 10 minutes about how much we know.
Right. It's one of those things where it's like, there's always going to be situations where things go in both directions, but I think you have to always bet on the mean, and that is usually players like this being maybe relevant for a minute, but if you can get a second and turn Monangai into a wide receiver in next year's class or a high-end IDP that's a deal that I'm doing.
So sell high on Monangai. This is his 5 minutes of fame, is what you're saying.
I don't want to say it.
Well,
I loved this potential. I loved the situation that was created for this exact scenario. I'm just afraid that maybe this was a perfect storm scenario.
I agree with you that I think like everything, but that's why you're buying high on him. You're saying, yeah, I think maybe, and sure, you could wait 2 weeks and get maybe more value out of him. Like, maybe that's true. But I don't know. I think I like the player and I like the situation. I don't like DeAndre Swift very much. So I feel like maybe you take that risk. Buy high on Monangai.
And then they take Jeremiyah Love in the first round next year.
That would be sick. Then you don't even feel bad. And you're like, well, at least he lost his job to somebody good, not DeAndre Swift.
All right. There it is.
Was there any guys that got traded that we should talk about? I feel like there's nobody that was like, it's like Sauce Gardner and Quinnen Williams. A.D. Mitchell.
There he is. That's a camper.
To the Jets. Is he going to get a pass thrown to him? Is he going to play? I feel like that's the more important question. News.
As one of the biggest A.D. Mitchell believers in that draft class, I'm very concerned with what I've seen thus far, which is being completely buried on the Colts when I was a person as dumb as I am saying that he could take Michael Pittman's number one spot within 2 years. Couldn't even take Alec Pierce's spot. And now he's being traded away.
Not ideal.
It's not good vibes, let's say that.
He had the fumble, and I think that maybe ruined his Colts. And I mean, there's been off the field stuff that people have talked about. I don't know the guy personally, so I'm not going to get into all that. But yeah, it's definitely been concerning. He's going to a bad Jets team with a terrible wide receiver core, though. So if there's any situation where it might work, this is it. I'm not sitting here and telling you to go get A.D. Mitchell, though. I'm not gonna co-sign that take. But if it's going to work, if there's going to be somewhere, I think he's going to play a ton, and we'll see how much they can throw the ball to him, just in general, because it's Garrett Wilson and pretty much nobody else on that team right now that is, at wide receiver at least. So we'll see. He's got his chance to make a mark in a bad receiver room while being on a good receiver room for the first couple of years in the league that looked bad because of quarterback play and whatever. Let's go. We're going to be in a barren spot, so you're going to have opportunity. We'll see what happens.
I hope he's on the field.
Me too.
That's it. I just hope he's on the field. All right. There it is. Week 9 of the NFL and week 10 of college football. Just a few weeks left of badges at this point. We are winding down, and I mean it's been a fun ride, that's for sure. This class is produced a few surprises. It's maybe helped itself a little bit along the way, as you predicted it would. And I'm excited to get to the end of the line, to dive into the film and to really understand it, because despite the fact that the picture has become a little bit clearer, I think there's a lot of room once we actually dive into the film of this season for things to shift and solidify further from where they are right now.
Yeah, I would 100% agree. I think we're looking at, this class kind of formulating, and we're looking at solidifying things, and sooner rather than later, we're going to have to pen some things down officially.
It's like an amoeba right now. I want it to be like a Jello block.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah.
If you enjoyed our discussion this week, be sure to find us on Twitter, camp_dynasty, TikTok at camp.dynasty. But most importantly, if you're watching us on YouTube, be sure to like this video if you enjoyed being here, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that already. That helps us out quite a bit.
Hit the bell. I think that does something.
You can hit the bell. You never miss an episode. It's great. It's a feature that I should use more often myself. I feel like I don't have many bells turned on, and I kind of wish that I had more. So
it helps create. Go help a small creator.
Save a life.
Ring their bell, damn it. It's like the Salvation Army.
There it is.
You're just helping people by ringing bells.
Yeah. That's all you got to do. One click, you can save a life. If you're on the pod feed, be sure to follow and like and rate. Maybe even leave a review if you're into that typing thing. You could try that out. But yeah, we appreciate it. Thanks for hanging out with us, stopping by, and supporting in the little ways that you can. If you choose to do that, we appreciate it. So, Collin, any final words for week 10?
Hey, I told you to go see Begonia last week. Great idea. I just went and saw it. It was awesome. Go see that. The Running Man, Predator Badlands coming out this weekend. Go watch those two. Good month for movies, November is.
God, hell yeah. Jeremiyah Love starring in Begonia.
That's right.
No, Emma Stone. That's right.
Right. Same difference.
Same thing. Thanks for stopping by Camp Dynasty this week, and we'll see you next week.